Savina. They're both amazing instructors of economics at BV. Myself, I'm Dr. Sergio Saenz-Rivera. I'm a government instructor, so we're gonna, and we are also
If
delighted
everybody could
to.
just mute their mics.
Can you mute your mics, please? Yes. So I'm very happy to have you here. My students, my colleagues, always honor and pleased to have you. Tonight we're going to talk about the changes brought by the AI. It seems we were talking about it among ourselves. Hamilton is the one that came up with the idea, and I think that there's nothing more relevant in our lifetime. I think the changes are truly a tsunami of changes that we cannot even predict what's going to happen. We're just entering. I was thinking this is what people experienced during the Industrial Revolution. They didn't imagine the changes in technology. We're living in a time where they invented the automobile or TV. We're living in a time bigger than that, even maybe the Renaissance. You know, something shocking as the collapse of the Roman Empire or the Soviet Union, even bigger because it's going to affect all of humanity. So we're going to start with Hamilton, then Carla, and then myself, and then we'll open the forum for questions from the audience. That's going to be the order of the day. Thank you again for coming. By the way, I got to mention, thank you for the support of my colleagues, also for the support of Tejano Passport. At the end of the event, I will post a link so you can add this to your Tejano Passport credit. Okay? Ready.
Okay, Hamilton, take it away. I will mute myself.
Okay, great. I'm really excited about this. This is something I've been thinking about since this whole AI thing came together. I should say, if you're one of my students, I will put up some questions that I want you to answer, so I at least know that you watched the presentation, that you didn't just turn it on and walked away. So be expecting that sometime later tonight. All right, let's get started. Over the course of my life, I've watched technology evolve from the simplest DOS computers to powerful AI systems that we're discussing today. Every stage brought something extraordinary into our lives, and each stage quietly took something human away. Tonight, instead of overwhelming you with statistics, I want to reflect on how these technological shifts shape not only our economy, but our humanity. Because AI is not just another wave of innovation, it is a tsunami reshaping how we work, how we think, and how we understand ourselves. I grew up writing letters. It's funny, I had a student that I told them I wrote letters and they go like, "You mean on paper?" Yes, on paper. Long reflective letters. I still have boxes of them. Writing forced me to slow down, choose my words, and imagine the person on the other end. Reflection wasn't optional. It was built into the process. Then came email, social media, and now AI. Each step making communication more efficient and more immediate. And with each step, that space for reflection became smaller. Economist Peter Howitt summarized this dynamic well. He said, there is still conflict at the heart of economic growth because innovations also lead to job losses. Progress always asks us to give something back. When social media arrived, I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. But the connections felt two-dimensional. Instead of conversations, we shared updates. Instead of depth, we exchanged curated versions of ourselves. We became broadcasters rather than companions. We are more connected than ever, and yet we connect less deeply than ever. Technology gives us access to everyone, but intimacy with no one. And now we arrive at artificial intelligence. Once, if you wanted to be interesting at a party, especially in New York City where I grew up, you had to read widely, think deeply, and understand what was happening in the world. AI changes that. It hands us answers instantly. It writes, it summarizes, predicts, and mimics thought. But my concern isn't that AI will think for us, it's that we might stop thinking for ourselves. Not that AI replaces our jobs, but that we allow it to erode our identity. Economists call this cycle creative destruction. Innovation replacing the old and driving long-run growth. Schumpeter described it as the perennial gale, reshaping the economy from within. The 2025 Nobel Prize recognized Mokyr, Aghion, and Howitz for extending this framework. Their work shows how societies grow by embracing new technologies when navigating the disruptions they bring. AI embroiders the duality more powerfully than any technology before it. On one hand, AI may raise global GDP by 7 to 10% in the next decade. Productivity gains in areas like finance, logistics, and education can reach somewhere between 30 to 40%. MIT research shows that generative AI can accelerate knowledge work by 40%. On the other hand, disruption is real. Goldman Sachs estimates that 300 million full-time jobs could be displaced globally. The OECD finds that 25% of jobs worldwide are at high risk from automation. And while most economists emphasize task replacement rather than full job elimination, a few researchers like Roman Yampoliski warns that if AI continues advancing rapidly, a very large share of jobs could eventually become automated. We don't need the most extreme predictions to understand the scale of this change. Innovation drives growth, but it also disrupts lives. Creative destruction assumes what we lose is always replaced by something better. Historically, that has been true. AI changes these assumptions in three important ways. First, AI automates not only physical labor, but cognitive labor. Writing, analyzing, diagnosing, teaching, and forecasting. The World Economic Forum predicts that 85 million jobs lost and 97 million created, but these new roles require skills that many workers do not yet have. AI increases demand for digital and analytical skills. This means that our educational and training systems will need to evolve so workers remain competitive in a changing labor market. AI brings new governance and risk management challenges. There may be a need for clearer standards around accuracy, privacy, and disclosure. Guardrails that reduce risk while still allowing innovation to thrive. Economists like Mokier note that innovation tends to accelerate when countries attract and retain high-skilled talent, whether training domestically or recruited globally. Some experts also emphasize the value of public-private partnerships that help guide AI towards applications that strengthen productivity and long-run economic growth. Economists continue to debate a range of these tools. Workers navigating technological transitions, retraining support, mobility grants, wage insurance, and other mechanisms that ease disruptions without sacrificing innovation. But beyond economics and policy, something more fragile is at stake. What if what we are destroying now is not a job, but a part of ourselves? Reflection, curiosity, serendipity, human presence, these cannot be automated or easily rebuilt. What do we preserve? The AI tsunami is here. It's reshaping work. It's reshaping how we work, how we learn, how we govern, how we participate in democracy. You'll hear different perspectives tonight on access, efficiency, governance, national security, and trust. All are essential pieces of this conversation, but my contribution is a simple question. How do we advance technology without abandoning ourselves? We often ask what AI can do. We rarely ask what it undoes. So I'll close this with a line from my now favorite television series, Pluribus. This show was made by humans. If AI is going to shape our future, then preserving what makes us human must shape our purpose.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hamilton. So I will now take over. Let me share my screen. And so I will be presenting on AI and cognitive biases. So how machines learn our blind spots. I think this is an area of high importance, and I think everybody needs to be aware, since I think most of us use AI. I want to begin by defining what AI is, what bias in AI is, right? So it works like bias in a statistics class or an econometrics class. It's a systemic error, and it skews the results in a particular direction, right? That's what bias is. So you can think about it this way. If I'm estimating a model with data, and if this data sample is if it systematically excludes certain groups, then my estimates will be biased, right? It doesn't include information that should be included. So I'm going to get a biased estimator. AI works in a similar way. So for example, if a machine learning model trains on data that underrepresents certain populations or reflects historical discrimination, then those predictions will systematically disadvantage those groups. It will continue to disadvantage those groups. So that it's very important that we are aware of these biases so that we don't perpetuate any type of discrimination or systemic disadvantages. And the key thing here is that AI has no idea that it's being unfair. AI, it's simply optimizing for patterns in the data that it was given. So in other words, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. The issue with AI is that this is done at an industrial scale. The first bias that I think we are all aware of, I think all of us have learned about this, especially like after the, with Facebook and all of the social media. Confirmation bias is very real. What is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is our tendency to seek out, remember, and favor information that confirms what we already believe. So imagine an algorithm that learns what you click on, right? What you engage with, what keeps you on a platform longer, The algorithm is learning what you're more likely to engage with and the content that you're most likely to click on. And it's going to continue to confirm your existing views. So it's going to continue to show you more of that content. And why is this dangerous? Is because it doesn't check us. It doesn't check what we don't know. It doesn't check what we might not know. It just continues to confirm what we already believe. So AI is not necessarily trying to polarize us. It is simply trying to maximize our engagement. That's what AI is. Um, and this can have serious economic implications. In other words, if we keep on looking at what already confirms what we already believe, then how are we going to make informed decisions if we're only seeing information that confirms our priors, right? And in economics, how does this affect market efficiency, right? Asymmetry of information. If we don't have all of the information, how are we going to make informed decisions? Being aware of this is critical. Okay? So AI amplifies this confirmation bias. It amplifies it by breaking down, by giving us a continual loop, giving us a continual feedback loop. It's a feedback loop mechanism. This is important to understand. And it shows how a small bias, just one little small bias that we might have, can continue to reinforce itself, and it's going to amplify dramatically. The way that works, for example, is AI is trying to optimize engagement one click at a time. So the first thing, AI optimizes the first click, right? We continue to engage with more content that continues to confirm our beliefs. That's step 2. AI, step 3, starts to learn this pattern and shows more of this confirming content. Step 4 is we continue to believe, our beliefs become more entrenched in these beliefs, right? And ultimately, AI will continue to show us even more extreme information confirming our bias. So it can start very small. We just believe one little thing, but as we continue to click and click and click, AI is going to continue to optimize this, and it's going to eventually become very extreme in confirming our own beliefs. And this can be very dangerous because it doesn't give us the opportunity to question or check ourselves. Right? This is what is a classic feedback loop. The economic term for this is path dependence. So what this means is where I end up depends heavily on where I started. Some other biases that we need to be aware of beyond confirmation bias are the following. So I picked 4. There are a lot of these, but these 4 are the ones that we learned in economics. So these are the ones I'm going to talk about. The first one is availability heuristic. What is availability heuristic? This means that we judge the likelihood of something happening or the probability of something happening by how easily examples come to mind, right? So let's just say like recently something happened, my mom tripped, my mom's 74 and she tripped, right? And this is the first example, the most recent example I might have. This is a very simple example. This is the most recent thing that happened to me. Now the likelihood of a 74 person tripping is going to be higher. I'm going to probabilistically think that a 74-year-old person is going to probably trip because the most recent example in my mind is that my mom just tripped, right? So an availability heuristic is when AI news feeds us a dramatic example of some news article, right? We're going to remember that, and then we're going to overestimate the frequency of that event. Right? That affects like, oh, this happened. Oh, it happens a lot more than it probably really does. The next bias is representative bias. What is this? This is again overestimating the probability of something happening on how well it matches our mental stereotypes. We all have mental stereotypes. So instead of looking at the actual base rates of the actual probability of a population, of some probability happening in a population, we look at the stereotype that we have in our mind, and we think, oh, this is going to happen because this is the most recent thing in my mind. This group of people does this, and so I'm going to assume that most people in this group are going to behave the same way. Right? Not true at all. The next one is anchoring. Anchoring is when we see something, when the algorithm gives us some sort of of a advertisement or a media, we're going to anchor our future beliefs on what we just saw. We're going to anchor our beliefs or our values are going to be influenced by what we just saw. So if AI suggests some sort of a starting price or an estimate or something to the effect, we're going to anchor to that number, not really doing other research and maybe the price should be lower or higher, right? And then the last type of cognitive bias is selection bias. And this type of bias excludes marginalized populations or reflects it might give you a sample of people that have access to technology, excluding other people that might not have access to that technology. So your idea is going to actually be biased to the people who actually clicked on the survey, right? Not everybody might have access to a computer, but those that do have access are going to be the ones clicking on the survey. And so it's not going to represent other groups that might not have access to technology that could very well answer the survey. So this is going to give us a selection bias. So these are very important biases that we should try to check ourselves as we're going through our, media feeds and our Facebook and Instagram. We should try to be aware of how we're thinking, because we've seen certain things, we've clicked on certain things. The algorithm is learning about us, and it's going to hone us in as to how we think. Some real world examples of how AI can have serious implications. I chose 4 here. I chose a labor market, credit market, consumer markets, and information market. So the first, on the labor market, there are hiring algorithms out there. For example, Amazon had developed a hiring algorithm that it trained on 10 years of resume data. Okay, you might say, oh, great, it's going to be very effective, right? It's going to diminish the load on the HR department. However, the resumes that were continually being submitted to Amazon were mostly from men. So as these resumes were going through the algorithm, the algorithm learned to penalize resumes that might contain words like women's chess club captain, right? Or it might discriminate against women's names. So already women would be out of the hiring pool. So that can be very problematic. The other type of algorithmic AI tool that is used out there is for credit scoring, right? So how many times have you gotten some sort of a, hey, apply for credit, no D'ing, blah, 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 right? And you click on to get access to credit. Well, these algorithms tend to penalize what they call thin files. Thin files are people with limited credit history. That means if you don't have an established credit, the algorithm is going to immediately boot you out, right? And so who are the groups that mostly have thin files? Well, these are going to be young people, immigrants, or people from communities that historically might not have access to banking. So again, the algorithm doesn't necessarily see race or see gender. It's just going to reproduce racial disparities through these proxy variables, which could be very problematic. It's going to perpetuate the marginalization of these groups. On the consumer markets, in my micro class, we just got done teaching about monopolies, right, and price discrimination. This is also very relevant in consumer markets, because what firms are doing is they are personalizing pricing algorithms to charge different prices to different customers. And so there's a lot of research out there that has shown that some algorithms are going to charge higher prices to consumers in, say, lower income zip codes versus higher income zip codes for the exact same product. Okay, that's very problematic. And then the last one is in information markets. Political polarization affects how citizens are going to process economic information. Again, going back to confirmation bias. If I'm only seeing news that's confirming my beliefs, then how am I going to have a good, solid, informed democratic debate with someone who disagrees with me, right? It's very important that we check these biases so we are well informed and we make good, rational, informed decisions. The other thing that I want to talk about just briefly is there are 2 types of biases, right? In statistics, we learned about the statistical bias. This is a statistical systematic error. This is, I have a data set and the data set is biased because it might exclude certain groups. So it's going to give me a biased estimator if I'm trying to model something. The other type of bias that is also prevalent here is the fairness, ethical bias. The algorithm doesn't necessarily know about fairness, right? The AI model or the way it's ran, they're not going to know that they're being unfair. So when outcomes systematically disadvantage certain groups, this could be morally problematic. And so even though the predictions are accurate, given the way the model is trained, it might give us an unethical outcome. So we also need to be very careful as when firms use these algorithms and the AI models, how they're being trained. They need to be careful. And I mean, the word fair is a challenging word to define, right? But if it's systematically not including certain groups, then that can be problematic. So how can we reduce bias, right? Well, getting better data, that's where we start. Importing data that is sound is a good starting point. So how, ensuring that the training data is representative of all groups. We could audit the databases for gaps. We could include diverse perspective in the data collection process. So make sure that if we're doing some sort of a survey, we make sure that we include all types of groups in the survey. Right. So we want a good solid sample when we train the algorithm. We could also do some sort of oversight and auditing. We could regularly test the AI systems for disparate impact across demographics. The EU has an AI Act, and it requires impact assessments for high risk AI systems. So the European Union is already implementing some sort of oversight and auditing to make sure that there's some sort of auditing in the testing of the AI. We could also have transparency and regulations. We could require firms to explain how they're doing it. Tell us how you're training the AI. Give us more information on the data that you're using. Right, this will give us more information about how the AI is coming out with the predictions. So these are just a couple of ways that we could try to move forward in reducing the biases. And so why does this matter? Because AI is done on such a huge scale. It's such a huge scale. You might have a loan officer, maybe he's discriminating against, certain groups of people, maybe a handful of people, right? And that's not acceptable. But imagine an algorithm, they're going to be discriminating on a massive scale. So it's very important that we are aware of these biases so it doesn't discriminate. And it can have huge implications on the markets and society. So just on a closing thought, just to have Sergio, he's going to has a great presentation for you. AI doesn't create biases, it scales it. And that is the biggest takeaway I want you to go away with. Everything that we do together as a population is going to scale the bias on a massive scale, and it's very important that we are aware of that so that we manage these biases, right? Because they, as I just showed you, they can be very problematic. So I will leave you with that. Sergio, I will let you pick it up from here.
Thank you, Carla and Hamilton. You really fantastic job, and it lays the ground very nice to what I'm gonna talk about. Let me share my screen. And let me share my screen, a window, and a PowerPoint. There you go. Can you see it? Can you see it? Hello? Can you see?
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to follow up with why is this important, because artificial intelligence is just not a technological development. It's also a political force and a development. It's already influencing democratic processes such as trust and civic engagement, the way we vote, voting machines even. It changes how politicians campaign and communicate, fundraise. It affects how the laws and policies are created, has major national security and global implications. And it has a lot of ethical and civic questions because basically we don't know and we don't have the institutional capacity yet to dimension the changes and control the changes. The next generation will live and vote in an AI-mediated world. So what changes? I'm just going to pick three that belong to political science, which is democracy. There's changes in campaigning, voting systems, civic values, public trust. In governance and transparency and accountability, all these words associated with democracy, uh, having to do with AI has improved drafting legislation, lawmaking, even public policy development. We don't know much about it yet, but AI may have significant implications in diplomatic, strategic, and military uses. So let's concentrate in some developments in AI. First, the chatbots. Chatbots have existed for a while, but AI like put a fuel booster on that. So now there are significantly more email spams and text messaging and all controlled by some data center somewhere, or maybe in the house of one programmer. We don't know, but they have a lot of information. They micro target people based on their users, their preference, the likes on Instagram or on Facebook, and based on that, or your database of your voting record, voter registration, zip code. Um, Also, research donors and political research and fundraisers have done it more efficiently. Now they know how many dollars, what segment of the population is more likely to donate in more exactly, right? AI created Donor Atlas is the first company for fundraising specifically for political campaigning, right? And it has already compiled 20 million detailed donor profiles. That database is for sale and available to whoever wants to purchase that information. They use data trackers such as racial and economic characteristics. And well, it looks good, right? Well, there's more mobilization, more information, more fundraising, but really it can become a tool for eroding the public trust, right? Because AI, when the politicians are campaigning, they generate ads with AI and have political content that is sometimes a fake video, deep fakes, Biden drooling, I remember, or other local politicians in New York saying something they didn't say, but it's in the film, right? And that the micro-targeted messages not only say truths, but also disseminate false information, right? That can make confusing the democratic processes. So one of the other usages that voters and campaign managers use is that they have a real-time monitoring and strategy adjustment of what's working on what's not on the political messages, almost by the minute. I'm going to mention something. In the past, they used to use surveys and polls, and that takes a long time, right? This is real time now monitoring. So how persuasive is AI generated propaganda versus if I had written a propaganda? Political scientists just recently did an experiment, and one group was given facts, right? Data. And it was, well, relatively unbiased, right? It's just Syria just attacked a Soviet tanker. And the second group was given human written propaganda, and 47% believe it. The third group was given AI written propaganda, which is 43% efficiency. So human writing still has a little edge because it touches the experiential, the sensitive, the human part that Hamilton was talking about, right? But this is the shocking finding that 53% of people believe the fake propaganda after humans edited the AI generated propaganda. That means that AI can be a tool, but it cannot do everything by itself yet, right? Yet. We don't have that maybe machines will become sensitive. Um, and now the other finding is propagandists can use AI to create convincing content with limited effort. That's the reality, and that's what we're looking at in the next elections. Carla was talking about echo chambers or polarization. Echo chambers, as she said, is an environment where an individual, you only watch movies that confirm your beliefs, and you only hang out with people that think like you. You exclude people that think different from you, and then you start confirming in a feedback loop, right? You don't see anything new. And there's a lot of dissemination of falsehood and wrong information when you're tired and you're not able to see and contrast and compare other opinions and points of view. And that falsehood leads to erosion of democratic trust. So there's an experiment. Do voters believe everything they see? And really, there was an experiment that 5,000 people were exposed to 139 viral news articles. And I believe that 30 of them were false, right? That deceptively false. They did fact checkers, and they and only the people that were extremely biased already, either the right or the left of the ideology spectrum, were exposed and receptive. The people that are moderate, that are able to see the right and left, are, and if they're exposed, they're not receptive to false and misleading news. So there exists a segment of the population that is gullible, but they are the extremes, right? They are not the mainstream. So there's hope on that, I want to think, right? There's the citation in my um, slide. Then there are changes in governance. I was saying that now policymakers, fundraisers, campaigners are able to see real time, monitor the the political preference of the public, right? They monitor Facebook likes or yes or shares, and that saves a lot of time and money, population sampling, hiring lobby pollsters, and all that is done in real time. AI tools are also helping bureaucracies to automate tasks like writing documents, reviewing documents, or even tracking budgets and resources. Uh, AI can also help legislators and policymakers to test programs in simulations before they implement them and spend money. So they can simulate policy outcomes and scenarios that before it was costly and time-consuming to do. Also, surprisingly, many legislators and lobbyists are saying that they assist AI the writing of legislation. What? Sorry? So there's, for instance, in the past, when lawmakers wanted to make a law, they went to the Library of Congress. You see the photo of the library here. It was time consuming. You'd have to set apart entire rows of books and examine what was said before, compare bills, say what was done wrong in the past and the future, predictions. And now with AI, you can research and synthesis in 5 seconds, right? There's even more accuracy and detail in legislation because usually there's little time to pass laws and all the details are left to the agency implementing the policy. And now the legislators can go into the very detail and tell the agency what to do in more precise terms. The military and diplomatic uses, really one of the scenarios is of international negotiation is you gotta send a diplomat that can contain his personal emotions. You're negotiating with an enemy. You're negotiating a peace treaty or an arms deal. You gotta maintain your poker face, right? With AI, if you send diplomatic if we use diplomacy with AI that is impassionate and emotional, maybe we'll get better treaties, better peace. There's hope on that. But draft treaties and documents for international cooperation. Sorry, I consulted military magazines because there's not a lot of precision, probably secret, right? But there is the U.S. military is already using enabled surveillance methods with AI, threat detection, and intelligence collection. You know, so the danger is that AI may not be discerning the right thing. They may be prone to exaggerate or overestimate or not distinguish what is a friendly gesture from a threat gesture, or overestimating the capabilities of the enemy or the forces attacking you, underestimating them, because there are decoys, there are all kinds of deceits using the war, right? And there's example of facial military use is facial recognition. China uses it to track their civilians already, but some say it's enhancing security against terrorists, domestic criminals, but it's also the double-edged sword. It's a threat to civil liberties. Other uses are enhancing weapon systems and predicting their maintenance routine or predicting the failures, providing recommendations directly on the battlefields, like where to strike better missiles, or rapid decision-making in conflict scenarios. AI can also operate autonomous weapons like robotic ships and drones, right? So instead of having a what to do about it, I have more questions. Elon Musk just famously relied to cut government size using AI. These are his words, and they use operators to make algorithmic decisions in government stuff. You know, the questions that bring attention is who designs these tools? Are they transparent? What are their intentions? Are they fair? And are the technocrats replacing bureaucrats that spend years and years on their desk specializing in something, studying something, that they had to pass civilian examinations and evaluations for years and years? Or military strategies that had training in the field, experience in battle, right? Are the technocrats replacing them? These are unelected decision makers, like database makers, IT operators, private companies that in the board of directors make decisions over millions of people. Who monitors them, right? That's the danger. We don't have an institution oversighting. And that's the problem, that algorithmic bias can contaminate government actions and erode our democracy. There are even sci-fi scenarios that I saw. Can an AI avatar run for office or government? Can a court or a legislator accept testimony generated under the name of an AI operating device or institution? What if an AI institution or machine sets up a business to get political campaign contributions? Will that contribution be legal, illegal? Can AI provoke a war? And that's the end of the presentation, right? Just to provoke thought.
Thank you, Sergio. That was wonderful.
So we open now the forum to
discussion and questions. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a comment, if it's okay.
Of course.
Okay, so I just have a little side story that kind of complements your presentation, Sergio. That a couple years ago, my husband let me know. My husband's in the military. He let me know that you know how there's remote drone operators where they're literally sitting in a control room sending the drones out, right? AI overrode the decision of the remote drone operator. The drone operator said, no, we're not going to fire this. You know, these were all tests, but he decided we're not going to fire at this point. And AI said, nope, that is a critical error. We're going to go ahead and fire. And I just thought that that was interesting because it's already happening. That's all.
Wow. Thank you for that. Oh, you're muted, Sergio. Sergio, you're muted.
See, that's tremendous. I couldn't have given a better example. Oh my God, that's scary. My colleagues and I are a little divided because they're more optimistic about it. I am less optimistic, obviously. I thought technology liberate, but also this has the danger of enslaving, right? If we don't take the care on the institutions around building barriers around it. Any questions?
That's a good point that you bring up. Because I think I'm on the more positive side, optimistic side. I think you're more on the pessimistic side. Does anybody want to share what their feelings are on, is AI good? Is it bad? Are you a bear about it? Are you positive about it?
I think
Oh.
AI is in a good, it's heading into a good way, especially how she I don't know who commented that. It really amazed me because how it's already taking over, and especially already in the military, and that's not scary, but it's really fascinating how it's already taking over the world in just a year. Because I feel like just this year, it's really AI has really impacted the world.
Thank you
Yes.
for that, Alexis.
Yes, I mean, we're still on the infancy of this. We're not even entering, right? The dimensions of this is unknowable, and sadly, I don't think I'm gonna be living the full extent of it, because it's not gonna happen in this century. It's gonna happen in the future, right? Um,
Mhm.
there's a question: how long, Professor Stepp? How long before AI replaces us? Carla Hamilton.
Oh,
You know,
I go ahead, Carla. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna, that is a question I think all of us worry about, all of us professors. But I think that in talking to some of my students, there's nothing like the personal attention, the tangibility of being in class, and I don't know, I think AI, if we are able to hold ourselves accountable, right, and we actually use it as a tool to enhance our learning, it's a wonderful tool. The issue is, and I think Stacy makes a really good comment, right? In the right hands, it can be wonderful, but in the wrong hands, it can be terrible. I mean, do I think humans are innately good humans? I want to say so. But I know that that is up for debate. I don't know. What do you think, James?
Hamilton
Yeah.
Hamilton was gonna say something.
Well,
I got you, Stella.
I read a historical account. I don't remember. Um, I don't remember the source, but I read a historical account that people thought that teachers would become obsolete when books got introduced to the classroom. Uh, Back in the days where people would memorize lectures, and the students would have to memorize what was taught. And then the whole idea of bringing books into the classroom, and what was the teacher's role then? If the book can tell you what you're learning, then you don't need the teacher there, right? I think we've always been in this kind of we've always been we've made these transitions from one thing to the next, from one technology to the next. And I think I agree with Carla. I mean, we add something. We add something that so far can't be accounted for. We add, I would say, wisdom, if we have that. We add experience. We add gravity. We add levitivity. Um, we bring that into the classroom, and I don't think that's going to disappear.
Right. I think the soft skills also are really important. Bringing experience to the classroom, having that connection. I think humans naturally want to connect. Estela has had her hand up, and so
Yes.
has Professor Cardiel. So Estela, you want to ask your question? Estela, are you
Estela.
there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. I wanted to respond to Sergio's question. I just attended a online presentation hosted by Dr. Archuleta Lucero, where AI was actually discussed as something positive, something that we would need for water rights. I'm more positive, Sergio. I believe AI it is not the problem. It's the humans behind the AI that are driving it. AI can be used in so many ways. It has changed so many things: healthcare, education, the economy, the environment, and even accessibility for people with disabilities. More importantly, AI is critical in addressing global warming and climate change, but from forecasting and risk prediction to energy optimization, carbon reduction and monitoring, even agriculture and food services, urban sustainability. I mean, like, the list goes on. It's not AI, it's the humans. And that's the problem. And I think you touched on many, many important aspects about that, Sergio. No oversight. A leader who
That's the
bonkers.
problem. That there's no oversight of the people that are doing the databases, the ones that are unelected,
Absolutely.
And the laws of politics. Politics
Absolutely.
is, if there's power, somebody's gonna take it,
That's right.
And who are these people? Who are
Yep.
these people? That's what I'm worried. I share
Absolutely.
with you, Estela.
Yeah.
Yes.
Use
Yeah.
the comparison of China and the United States. If China has 1 million drones, the United States is going to create 1.5 million. And then China is going to do 2 million. And that's the problem. Until the masses come together and address the way these technologies are being used, it is problematic. I don't disagree with you on that. Wholeheartedly, I agree with you. And that is the big problem right now, right? Especially under particular government regimes and so forth. But thank you for hosting this, such a interesting and important area of study. Thank you, my friend.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Estella,
Estela.
we've had so many side conversations leading up to this presentation, and that was one of the things that we talked about, the use of AI by nefarious people who are just interested in making a profit. Yeah, that is very prevalent in a lot of our minds. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I am also glad that Professor Cardiel and Estela and also Zachary Ochoa brought up the issue of the water waste. AI data centers that are highly speculative still are gonna require so much water to cool off the systems, the computer systems, right? And there was a presentation yesterday with Dr. Archuleta. Fantastic. They touched a little bit on that. Um, and Estela, I'm not an expert, so the best way to learn about something is to teach it and present it. Like, I wish I knew more details on that,
Absolutely.
right?
And not only that, Sergio, but this is relatively new. It's dystopian and it's almost sci-fi in terms of how scary it could be, like you referenced, especially when we're talking about a futuristic society in which these drones are controlling not only the airspace, but controlling every aspect of our lives. That is always a possibility, no doubt. Again, it's up to the masses to, push the leaders into trying to do things differently, but that's going to be a heck of a job. But thank you again, Sergio.
Yes. Regina agrees with you and us that the scariest part is when people use AI in harmful ways, like scamming, hacking, fraud. Exactly. Nadia, I think AI has the potential to really be good, especially how advanced it is getting so quickly. But I really think it needs to be regulated. Again, right? We fall into the lack of institutional capabilities to regulate. We're still in shock. It's happening so fast that, right? Um, and yeah, let me see, Suzanne. Suzanne?
Hi, yes, I really
Hi.
I just really appreciate the intersection of this is talking about AI in the context of how is it affecting really everything, right? You went through government, politics, the economy, political economy? How is it affecting things? And I'm thinking about our students in the room because I hear interviews with employers saying, yes, these skills are so important. We have to understand, right? AI is not going anywhere. We're understanding, just beginning to understand the magnitude of all of this, right? The internet changed things. AI is on a whole other scale. And so I try to have these conversations with students. So I just want to hear from you all too. How do we, and for the students in the room, is how do us who are trying to understand what the magnitude is, how do we educate ourselves further on learning about AI? How do we learn AI beyond using ChatGPT, right? And you gave great examples and wonderful ways of what is happening in the world AI. Is how do we guide ourselves to have, it's almost like part of civic education now, right? If civic education is addressing things like rampant misinformation and disinformation, it seems like AI needs to be, knowledge about AI needs to be incorporated into civic education. So that's what I'm thinking about for our students, is how do we help them balance that need to know and build their skills while at the same time building things like compassion and empathy, because AI, employers have said AI doesn't do those things. We need critical thinkers. We need people with skills of communicating. So I suppose my question for you all is, how are you all addressing, and for all the educators and having students think about this, is how do we educate ourselves on AI just to have more understanding about it in general? And how do we have these conversations with students?
Yeah. I attended a workshop by the AEA, the American Economic Association, and they talked about ways of integrating AI into the classroom. A lot of the focus is on being very direct with students and letting them realize that we know that you know that you're going to use AI. So how are you going to use AI in the classroom, and how we're going to implement it? Giving students, these are probably good ways that you can use AI. These are probably not so good to use AI. I had my students in one class use AI to answer a not so easy economics question. I forgot what the question was, but we ran it through AI and AI was wrong, right? And so I'm telling them, what the answer you're getting the popular answer. You're not getting the correct answer. So one of the things I think of being a scholar and having scholarship is being able to look at data and decide what data is accurate and factual versus things that are just thrown out there as distractions. So yeah, it was a really good presentation, and this could be that could be a presentation or a workshop in itself.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, because I think you bring up a really good point, Suzanne. I mean, students are going to use AI. I really try to drive the point home. If you're going to use it, use it. It's a great tool to enhance your learning, but kind of inculcating accountability, right? Are you learning? You make sure you're learning. It's a challenge. I think we've all seen it. I mean, I have assignments when 2 years ago the writing level was maybe high school senior, sophomore. Right now the writing level is master's level, PhD level, because it's all ran through AI. So I think driving the point of accountability is important, that we acknowledge, like we use it in a way that's only going to enhance and not replace our learning.
Yeah, I don't even know how to really make sense, but I do believe that Suzanne is right. Financial literacy, studying skills, and AI uses should be part of the standard curriculum, like apart from civic education. I think it should be incorporated into the curriculum and educate ourselves. I'm gonna have to. I mean, I use it sometimes, but I cannot go beyond simple questions or correct the grammar, and the students are gonna have to learn for that, and it would be a disservice if we don't let them use it. It's just not abuse it, the part that I like. But I'm gonna let James is next, I think. James Finquist, Professor Finquist, thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
I just thought that one of the things is we want the students to be critical thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
They need the knowledge to do it. They need the skills to do it, and they need the perspective to do it. But to understand that AI gives you false sources and can mislead you and bias it, I think the way that one of the suggestions I got was to use something really uh, uh, really close to the students, like have them use AI for something like Taylor Swift or how to make a chocolate chip cookie, or what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys? Ask AI that, have the students do that, and get something really simple answer, and they can see how AI maybe doesn't give them, like you like to
We
make your
lost
chocolate chip cookies with
we lost you.
non-salted butter, but AI is going to say use salted butter or something like that. And they can see the different perspective of that. Also, a recommendation might be to have them use different chats and see how the different chats uh, come up with the same different solutions, even though, and I thought, Mr. Hamilton, you made some good insights there. But and then from a teaching point of view too, simulations and stuff like that that AI has. Yesterday I was watching a conversation between Plato and John Rawls, and or in economics you could use a lot of simulations. In political science we could use a lot, but that helps teacher student to interact with AI. That's just real quick. So. But.
Yeah, those are I mean, you're right. They're wonderful tools, and we need to develop methods to control the insertion of AI into the pedagogic methods that we use regularly, because we're gonna have to. I mean, there is no if, but it has to happen about now, right? Thank you, James, for your contribution.
Adriana, do you want to
Adriana.
say something, Adriana?
Yeah, then
Yes,
like we're over time, folks. So like
yeah,
we'll probably have to wrap this up. So yeah, one more question, I guess.
So question, comment, I don't know how you want to take it, but thank you for doing this. And just from the topics that are being brought up, we can see there's a whole spectrum, right? The whole spectrum use of AI. In terms of the classroom, Hamilton, your example of getting students to do that activity to show what you can provide, that's a great idea. I wanted to make a point of the bigger picture, right? Just like the internet can only give us information that's already put out there by somebody. So when AI gets information, it's information that's already out there, right? Yes, it's great at research and putting all this information together, but in terms of innovation and going forward, you still need people, right? You still need people to be creative and create new things and create new ways of doing stuff. And yes, AI will then pick it up, but AI is not designed to create new stuff. It's just designed to put everything together that's already out there. So, in terms of being pessimistic or optimistic, to me, that's there's still hope for humanity as I see it. That was my comment.
That's a good point. That's a good comment. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And that's a good closing comment, I guess.
It is.
So, thank you. Can I close? Yes.
Yeah.
In the name of my beautiful, wonderful colleagues, and I thank you all for your presence here. Thank you, Carla Hamilton, for your
Thank
work.
you, Sergio. Thank you, Hamilton.
Thank you, dear
Thank
colleagues.
you,
Thank you,
Sergio.
my dear
and thank you
colleagues
for
from
all
the
of our colleagues
government.
attending. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. This is an ongoing thing, I guess, and we're gonna have to talk more about AI. This is not the end, but the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully next semester we give another talk on another on another topic
We'll
that
hone it
we
in a little bit
decided.
more. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. Remember, this is a Tejano Passport event. If you're collecting points for your graduation, there's a link up in the chat. Let me post it again. And thank you for coming. If you're my student, you need to tell me on an email or a report of what you learned tonight. Okay? In order to get extra credit. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Night. And we stay a little bit. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, James. James, thank you.
Thank you,
so
James.
much.
Yes, thank you, James, for your support. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All the comments were great. You know, sometimes I get hurried. Oh yeah, we need to cram the hour like but sometimes the conversation goes well and it's I'm okay with staying a little bit longer.
Nice
Not sure
seeing you,
about the
Adam.
public.
I'll see you on Friday.
See?
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
too.
Adam. Thank you, James. Thanks, James. So we can download. Sorry.
The attendance, right?
Yeah.
Let me do that now.
I don't know why is it the political economy of corruption.
Let me see
Oh,
where
no,
is.
no. More a chat. Okay, chat. Download by going to people, clicking the three dots. Okay, participants, and download attendance list.
Do you know how to do it, Sergio?
Yeah, I just did it.
Okay, awesome. Can you send it to all of us?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
It's
guys,
an Excel.
that was a success.
Yeah. Very good, actually.
I think we just we touched what the tip of the iceberg. There's so much going on, right? So
I know.
this might be something worth revisiting at some point in the future.
Yeah, we'll do it again next spring. We'll kind of hone it in a little bit more. Maybe
Yeah.
I mean, I think people were really interested in like the political part of it.
And
Maybe
that,
explore more, right?
right. And then there's like, what Suzanne was talking about, like how do we incorporate this into our classrooms, right? Because it's there. I mean, it's going to be there whether we acknowledge it or not. So how do we use it in a more functional way? But again, I think it's, for me, I let them know from the beginning. I know you guys use AI, and I told them the other day, and they're looking at me like I'm just pulling this out of my hat. I said, and so, like, just so you know, I use AI to check if you're using AI. And they looked at me like, oh. So
No, it's wonderful. I mean, last night a friend of mine asked me, "How do you know how to use AI? Can you teach me?" And I asked ChatGPT, "Can you make a manual of how to use ChatGPT?" And I gave it to him. 10 steps, as simple as that.
That's funny.
Well, no, this is no joke. See, so we're done, friends.
I think we're done. I think it's a wrap. Thank you guys for helping me and adding me and including me and letting me be a part of it. Sergio, I appreciate you so much, Hamilton. Your energy is always, it always picks us up. So thank you both for allowing me to collaborate.
No, I'm not allowing you. You're part of this. I mean, you were actually you and I started it, no?
Yeah, you and I said, you and I
Sí,
said it, what,
sí,
2 years ago?
sí.
¿Verdad?
Let's continue
Oh,
doing it, but
let's continue. No, for
every
sure.
semester,
I think we
every
got good
semester.
feedback. And we had like, what, 60
Sí,
people? That's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Sí.
Let's keep it going. I mean, given that we had a week to put this together and we
Yeah,
had good turnout, like that's awesome.
yeah, no, it was great, and the students were engaged. I'm sad that
Totally.
I didn't get to acknowledge everyone, but you know, it was quick.
No, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much. Both have a wonderful evening. And so I'll see you guys on Friday. I'll be same
Under
place,
the po-
same the last of the semester, and I'll see you Sunday, Sergio.
I'm sending this immediately.
Thank you. Yeah,
Hamilton
please, so I can give
Cruz.
my students credit.
Yes. All right. Take care, friends. Bye
All
bye.
right. Good night.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.
Good night. Gracias, Sergio.